2 months had passed since I last saw Lily, my ex-wife. The house felt strangely new without her, lighter, quieter, as if it had finally released a long-held breath. In those weeks alone, I had slowly rebuilt a rhythm to my days. Mornings no longer carried the heaviness of unspoken arguments. I made breakfast without the feeling of walking through fog. I watered my plants, noticed sunlight pooling across the floor, and even paid attention to the birds outside the window. For the first time in a long while, the house felt calm, almost tender. I could still picture the night she walked out. There had been no shouting, no slammed doors. Just Lily standing at the threshold with her suitcase, softly saying, "I can't stay anymore." Those quiet words cut deeper than any loud fight ever had. For years I tried to mend what was crumbling between us, to revive something that was already fading. But after she left, life kept moving whether I wanted it to or not. One afternoon, someone knocked on the door, tentative and familiar. I didn't have to guess. When I opened it, Lily stood there, looking smaller than I remembered, her hair loosely tied, her eyes full of regret and something that looked like hope. "Eli," she breathed, as if she had practiced the word. "Is it possible to start again?" I stood frozen. Part of me wanted to close the door and protect the fragile peace I'd found. Another part felt that old pull toward her. But before I could say a word, a playful voice drifted from the bathroom. "Looks like you already have." Startled, I turned to see Penelope, Lily's younger sister, emerging wrapped in a fluffy pink towel, droplets of water still clinging to her hair. She stepped into the hallway with an easy confidence that warmed the space. "Started what?" I asked, though deep down I knew what she meant. "Moving forward," she said, tilting her head with a mischievous spark in her eyes. "You didn't sit around waiting for her to walk back. You began living your life again." Her words hit me harder than I expected. The last 2 months hadn't been empty, they'd been a rebirth. I hadn't just endured the loneliness. I'd uncovered parts of myself I had long forgotten. Healing hadn't come from waiting for someone else's return. It came from choosing myself. Penelope's smile softened, losing its teasing edge. "You're different," she said gently. No accusation, no envy, just honesty. "I guess I had to be," I replied quietly. There wasn't any other way to figure out who I was without her. She laughed lightly, and the sound filled the hallway with warmth. Somehow her presence made the house feel even more alive. For 2 months I had been on my own. And yet I was beginning to realize I hadn't been truly lonely. Then Lily stepped forward, hands trembling slightly, uncertainty clouding her face. "Eli, please," she whispered, her voice fragile. "I made mistakes. I see everything now. Can we give us another chance?" I met her eyes again. The spark was still there, yes, but so were the fractures I had finally learned to see, the subtle breaks I once pretended didn't exist. This time I didn't feel the old urge to mend things or to cling to what we used to be. What I felt instead was clarity, clean, steady, undeniable. 2 months apart had taught me something essential. The person who comes back isn't always the person you still need. Sometimes the real blessing is the version of yourself that grows in their absence. I took a slow breath and stepped toward her, not out of longing but truth. "Lily," I said quietly, "I've changed. Not for you, for myself. For the life I started rebuilding while you were gone. I'm not the same man who stayed silent." Her surprise flickered across her face. She had expected tears, anger, or desperate questions. Instead, I gave her calm certainty, the kind born from the work I'd done alone. From behind me, Penelope spoke with a knowing smile. "He means it," she said softly. "You let your moment slip." Lily's lips shook as she searched for something to hold on to. The woman who once held every corner of my heart now seemed uncertain, almost fragile. I thought of all the years I had carried hurt quietly, believing love meant enduring everything. But I no longer needed someone else's validation to breathe, to smile, to be whole. I remembered those first lonely nights, quiet, heavy, the glow of the kitchen light and a cup of coffee in my hands while I stared out at the empty sky. Tears would come, silent and exhausting. But slowly I found my pace again. Early morning runs, half-finished books, meals I cooked just because I felt like it, small habits that belonged entirely to me. As I reclaimed them, I realized how much of myself I had given up. "Eli," Lily whispered, "I don't want to lose you. We can start again." I shook my head gently. Starting again doesn't mean returning to what broke us. It means using what we learned. And I learned that I deserve someone who puts in the same respect and effort I do. Going back would only risk reopening the same wounds. The air grew still as the truth settled between us. Lily struggled to recognize the man standing in front of her. A man who no longer bowed, waited, or sacrificed himself to keep peace. Penelope stepped up beside me, her voice soft but unyielding. "You can't disappear and then expect everything to freeze for you," she said. "He moved on. He found his life again. He isn't waiting anymore." I felt a quiet smile tug at my lips. "You had your time," I told Lily. "And I truly hope you find your own clarity. But I've already found mine." Later that evening, Penelope and I sat on the porch as the sky faded from warm golden to deep blue. "You didn't just get through all this," she said lightly. "You rose above it. That's why she showed up. She saw you changing and it frightened her." I nodded, sipping my tea. Funny, isn't it? Losing someone makes you realize how much of yourself you'd neglected. I spent so long waiting for her to understand me that I forgot to understand myself. Penelope laughed softly. "And now that you do, you're a force." The breeze whispered through the trees, carrying a sense of finality I didn't fear anymore. My history with Lily wasn't erased, it just no longer controlled me. I had found my direction again, my strength, and unexpectedly, a steady presence in Penelope, who reminded me that joy is something you build piece by piece. Not every ending is a heartbreak. Some endings clear the path ahead. They remind you of what you truly deserve. They show you that happiness is created choice by choice, moment by moment. And for the first time in years, I knew that whatever came next, I was already living the life meant for me. 2 months after the divorce, Lily came back. But she came back too late. I had already begun living. And in that living I found peace, happiness, and a quiet strength no apology could undo.